Hello everyone, this is the second part of chapter 2, okay? Second part of chapter 2, and we are starting out on page 45, real estate office requirements. This does not matter if you have an office at home or if you're going to lease an office. Requirements are here the same. It tells you, your line 7, a broker office must consist of at least one enclosed room in the building. A broker also, it tells you a broker's primary office is called the principal office. That's where the broker's records, books, real estate transactions, they are kept. It also tells you if local zoning permits, the broker may have the broker's residency as long as you can have your signs up. So you need to check with local zoning to make sure you can have the proper signage. You can have the brokerage company there, okay? The other thing, out-of-state brokerage office. Yes, if you are a broker, you can open up an office in another state as long as you cooperate with the state of Florida. If they decide to do any type of investigation upon it, you do have to comply with that. Over on the next page, page 46, broker associates, sales associates are not allowed to open up offices of their own. Down below there, concerning registration issued to branch offices, if you are moving one office to the other office, you have to get a new registration. You cannot transfer your registration, okay? It's not transferable. Move from one to the other to get a new permit, get a new registration. Temp shelter, you've seen them all the time. You go into a new neighborhood, they haven't started building up, haven't built up the homes yet. And usually they'll have like a little trailer or something there where you can go and get information about the neighborhood. A lot of times that trailer is used as a temp shelter. It's there for associates to be able to give out information about the neighborhood. However, if you start doing contracts and negotiations in that temp shelter, now you have to register it as a branch office. Over on the next page, the signs has not changed, guys. Remember, you got to have the name of the company, you've got to have the broker's name, and underneath there you have to have licensed real estate broker or LIC in that order. On top, real estate company. Underneath, name of the broker. Underneath, licensed real estate broker or LIC. If you use the name of the associate, that is optional. That is not mandatory. If you do, make sure you have your line there like they have it on the picture. On page 48, ADA, Americans with Disability Act. That act is there to protect the rights of individuals with mental and physical handicaps. People for public accommodation, commercial facilities, new construction, renovation, employment practices, they all have to abide by that rule. That's the reason why you have, usually in a public accommodation, a public place, you have bathrooms where the stalls are big enough for those that are in wheelchairs to be able to come and go in and out with no problem, accessibility. Or on page 49, concerning advertising, brokers, you are the one who is basically responsible for the advertising going out of your brokerage. So you need to check that stuff. Here's the main thing that you want to make sure that you're clear on. You gotta have the name of the brokerage on your marketing piece, okay? If you don't have the email address, fine. You don't have to have the email address, but you have to have the name of the brokerage, because if you do not, that's called blind advertisement, and that is absolutely illegal. So brokers, you need to check that stuff to see what's going in and out. If you flip on over to page 50, it tells you if you want to include personal information, knock yourself out. You can do that, okay? The main thing you have to know, though, is that your last name has to be exactly like you have it registered with state, okay? So if your name, for example, is Tom Smithsonian, okay? You can't go marketing Tom Smith. All right? You might, if you want to do T Smithsonian, go right ahead. But if you have it registered as Tom Smithsonian, that last name has to be exactly how you have it registered. False advertisement, here again, guys, brokers, it is up to you. Bottom line, in this particular paragraph tells you, unfortunately, it is left up to the brokers, bottom line, to make sure that the advertising that goes out of the marketing, out of your company, is not falsely done and is properly done right. On page 51, unauthorized use of associate's name. If you are not a realtor, if you're not a member of one of those boards, don't go putting realtor in your marketing. You only put that there if you are a member of one of those boards, okay? Down to the bottom of 51, they're talking about rental information lists, and all the way over on page 52. You don't see a whole lot of that in the field right now, but just in case if you do, if you decide that you want to charge your real estate company, if you want to actually charge for a rental list, that's fine, but just make sure on the receipt, according to page 52, the receipt must state that a prospective tenant who does not obtain a rental is entitled to be repaid 75% of the fee if requested within 30 days of the contract. If the information provided to the prospective tenant is not correct or is inaccurate in any material respect, the broker must pay 100% of the fee to the prospective tenant, okay? Make sure you're clear with that. Fair housing and advertising at the bottom of page 52. Remember our protective classes. You can't go discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familiar status, and national origin. They are protected. You shouldn't be discriminating anyhow, but you certainly cannot be discriminating on those in any of those particular classes. If you flip over to page 54, 55, remember the Fair Housing Equal Opportunity poster? All right, brokers, make sure you have one in your office. This is, to me, this is almost like a piece of protecting for you, the broker, because here again, by showing this, by having this in the office, and have it somewhere so that the people can see it when they come in, not behind your desk where nobody can see it, and half the time they may not even go in your office, okay? This actually shows, this is helping to give the public, let the public see that you're not practicing discriminatory cases. Go on over to page 56, Telephone Solicitation Act, TCPA. So what you're talking about here is people who are on the National Do Not Call Register. They don't want to be called telemarketing. If they're on that list, don't call them. You can be fined for it. And you want to make sure and check the list quarterly. Usually agents check that list quarterly to make sure, you know, so you can remove those that needs to be removed off of that list. There are some exceptions to the rule. Page 57 tells you, if number one, that first bullet, if you actually have a client that's ready to put an offer on a for sale by owner property, and they're on the list, yes, that's an exception. You can go ahead and call them and give them the offer. The other thing is, if in the event that you did conduct some type of transaction with that client, you can go back to them up to 18 months after the transaction has been done. Or the other one, if you had some type of dealing with, there was some type of dealing that you may have had with that particular buyer, that particular client, you have up to 3 months that you can go back and inquire from them from there. But other than that, licensees check the National Registry at least quarterly. Delete all those calls from the phone numbers of consumers that may not be there. Last thing on your page 58, your junk facts. Your junk facts, okay? Fax solicitation, kind of like no difference. You know, you need to get approval in order to be sending over solicitations using fax. If you have faxes that contain an unsolicited advertisement, you must include an opt-out notice on it, okay? All right, let's hang on out till we get to chapter 3.